Welcome back to Main Street Informant. In this channel, we provide information related to wealth, money, power, finance, business, and economics. In today's video, we will be talking more about China's social unrest and the possibilities of collapsing in weeks. Time is running out. Following the frozen of deposits of nearly $6 billion, social unrest has broken out in China. To put an end to the demonstrations, thousands of police were sent in. After the protest, hundreds of thousands of Chinese home buyers refused to pay their mortgages totaling up to $300 billion. Over 300 projects in 91 cities apparently no longer receive mortgage payments. The 2008 recession is being repeated in China. However, a complete social uprising is brewing on a completely new level. Meetings within the government have revealed a lot of concerns within the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP. The rest of the world will ultimately be impacted by the repercussions. China's civil strife has exposed a wide range of internal problems, and the consequences will ultimately have an impact on the rest of the world. Recently, over 400,000 Chinese citizens saw their bank deposits frozen. Depositors were simply refused when they attempted to withdraw cash from an ATM. A vast fraudulent scam that went on for more than 10 years led to the bank freeze. Despite repeated attempts by the CCP to control them, protests against the bank freeze have gained widespread attention on Chinese social media sites. Following the viral bank demonstrations, social unrest spread to practically all regions of the nation. Several significant concerns were leaked during a recent internal government property discussion. Construction on properties covering 300 million square feet has been put on hold. Local governments are at their breaking point. It has been suggested that a 200 to 300 billion yuan property fund is insufficient. Construction startups are down 30% and property sales are down 20% in China. Financial authorities have proposed allowing citizens to deposit mortgage payments in the amount of unpaid mortgage payments equal to 2 trillion yuan or $300 billion as a result of Chinese home buyers failing to make their mortgage payments. 5 banks failed, and this would soon extend to 20 banks, 100 banks, and the entire banking system. The issue with both the bank freeze and the mortgage boycott is that a domino effect is going to happen. This is due to the Chinese bank system's reliance on fractional reserves, which is a feature of financial architecture of practically every nation. The bank does not keep 100% of the deposit, but in fact, they lend out 90% and only keep 10%. Consider this example. Someone deposits $10,000 in the account. In order to earn money from interest, the bank will loan out $9,000 of that person's money while keeping $1,000 in reserves. The borrower of the $9,000 will afterwards spend those funds on goods and services. Someone else will get the $9,000 as income and deposit it into the bank, since one person's expenditure is another person's earning. Now, the bank will lend $8,100 while holding $900 in reserves. The $8,100 will subsequently be spent by the $8,100 lender. As income, someone will receive $8,100 and deposit it in the bank. As a result, the bank will lend out $7,290 while maintaining reserves of $810. The money supply in the case we looked at began at $10,000 and gradually rose to $100,000. Citizens will rapidly discover that the banks don't actually have the money they deposited when they all want to withdraw their money at once because the banks merely generated money out of thin air. Because the lending is duplicated again, this is referred to as the monetary multiplier effect. Recent social unrest in China is a warning that the country's economy is completely collapsing. The mortgage boycott did not just happen overnight. It took years of greed and poor management to accumulate all the resentment that manifested itself as a boycott. Due to rising housing costs, people had to save money for years in order to purchase real estate. The value of real estate is thought to account for approximately 70% of Chinese household assets. Imagine putting money aside for years before you ultimately buy a single house. Chinese people place a great deal of cultural value on owning real estate, especially with newer generations utilizing it as a tool to prepare for retirement. Such a massive buying spree filled the booming real estate market, which lasted for decades. Property developers view this hunger as a chance to grow more quickly. Prospective homeowners believed that house costs would keep rising. They were worried that the price would have significantly escalated by the time the property was finished. Home buyers would be willing to take on the risk of buying during the pre-sale in order to obtain residences at a lesser cost. The pre-sale concept was extremely successful in China as the home prices continued to rise. The Chinese National Bureau of Statistics reports that 34.5% of the revenue from property development comes from pre-sales. The money made from the pre-sale round would be used by real estate developers to market new pre-sale houses. Similar to a Ponzi scheme, this approach initially functioned well but failed as soon as customers lost faith. Home buyers lost faith in developers when they didn't meet the timetable for completion. Chinese developers are currently financing the building of new pre-sales with the proceeds from prior pre-sales. In a Ponzi scheme, new investments are used by fund managers to repay earlier investors. Older investors will no longer be rewarded once the scheme is unable to attract new ones. Before the boycott, property developers frequently failed to deliver previously sold homes. According to Nomura Holdings, just 60% of the pre-sold residences between 2013 and 2020 were really constructed. A petition was signed by 900 buyers on social media in June 2022. The petition concerned Evergrande, the largest developer at the time, who was involved in real estate. Pre-sale home buyers made a request to the regional government through a petition. The petition by the home buyer to suspend making mortgage payments was granted if Evergrande did not start building again within 3 months. Competition at the time seemed insignificant to the enormous real estate giant. Evergrande wasn't aware at that time that the movement would expand to over 300 projects across 91 cities, before extending to Hunan, Hubei, Shanxi, Hebei, and a number of other regions. The boycott started in the Henan province. Banks are already notifying mortgage payments that have not been made, even though the 3 months have not yet ended. China has been desperate, making significant efforts to stifle the movement, but doing so has only led to its further expansion. Chinese protesters have ceased making mortgage payments to show their opposition to what they see as a betrayal of the nation's cultural norms and because it is legitimate for banks to demand full payment. Despite this, the government has given its citizens permission to temporarily halt their payments. The interest rate on mortgages has also been reduced numerous times in China this year. The 5-year loan prime rate has been lowered by CCP from 4.6% to 4.45%, and lending limitations for real estate developers have been lifted. A similar action would be to increase money printing to combat inflation. Imagine the construction on properties all around China were to be halted. If every buyer of unfinished homes made a default, $58 billion in loans would be lost. According to economists, this anxiety will permeate throughout the real estate market and have an impact on mortgages totaling trillions of dollars. The Chinese government was gradually revealed during the Henan province bank fraud. The CCP's goal in every deceptive action was to contain social fear, But instead of reducing the strain, they increased it. Protesters gathered on July 10 outside 4 small-town banks that had $5.9 billion in frozen accounts. The government has decided to reimburse citizens who lost up to 50,000 yuan, or roughly $7,500, in reaction to the protest. Due to a false sense of security, the majority of citizens placed their whole life savings. The government is meant to safeguard bank deposits up to 500,000 yuan. However, this insurance does not cover fraudulent operations. Depositors in the banks in the Henan province were taken advantage of by Henan New Fortune's owner. Henan New Fortune is accused of defrauding the bank by forging loans and transferring money unlawfully. Henan New Fortune would simply take the money for itself rather than loan to its citizens. The deposits were not eligible for government insurance because the action was dishonest. But how are people supposed to know that the banks were involved in fraud, given the situation? While some could argue that depositors should have done their own research, how are they supposed to detect a scam when the perpetrators are literally hiding it? Depositors nationwide have become wary of all banks as a result of the bank protests, and for good reason. Nobody wants to invest in the Chinese economy anymore among foreign investors. The amount of Chinese junk dollar bonds trading below $0.20 doubled between June and July. With regard to their objectives, the CCP has gone absolutely crazy. Venture capitalist David Sachs thinks President Xi is the source of this panic. When the dictator has all the power, no one has the ability to stop the government's idiocy. Perhaps President Xi is delusional as a result of the CCP's achievements over the last few decades. Dictators have a history of making awful decisions on their own. According to Sachs, a Chinese monarch who forbade shipbuilding 500 years ago caused China to fall behind the West in terms of development. His recent meeting with Biden vowed to exert authority over Taiwan as his presidency couldn't be any more insane. Xi assured Biden that China will protect its territorial integrity and national sovereignty over Taiwan. This suggests that China is attempting to keep international business off its soil. The results of this are already evident. Even Chinese citizens are beginning to rethink their Chinese citizenship. There are about 10,000 wealthy Chinese nationals with a value of about $48 billion who are preparing to leave China this year. This indicates that China is nearly at the same level as Russia in terms of losing their citizens. Jack Ma, the former CEO and founder of Alibaba, recently relinquished ownership of the Ant Group rather than remain stranded in China. Despite the enormous institutional obstacles to leaving China, this movement is taking place. These obstacles include acquiring the documentation, getting a visa from other nation, and getting official permission. It should not be shocking at all that some people wishing to leave China. The property market in China is experiencing new lows as the economy deteriorates. Evergrande had months to prepare, but according to sources close to the bondholders, the business hasn't even begun restructuring its debt. If they want to raise money, they can keep selling additional homes, but who will buy them? Nobody will make investments, but more crucially, nobody will purchase their brand new pre-sale homes. In addition to having an excessive number of vacant homes, China's population is also rapidly declining. China's implementation of limits on the maximum number of children that individuals could have is the cause of population drop. Chinese families were only allowed to have one child each after the one-child policy went into effect in 1979. The two-child policy was implemented in 2016 because the government discovered that their population would drastically decline. China is expected to experience a significant population reduction as a result of the one-child policy, which continues to haunt its people. China is currently facing a number of significant problems, but if the government played its cards well, all of them would eventually find long-term solutions. The government is shifting back toward a more socialist structure, which historically has been bad for economic growth, so it doesn't seem like that will be the case. At this moment, there is no way to preserve the Chinese economy. The Chinese economy is about to experience one of its biggest collapses ever. In the event that social dissatisfaction intensifies, the populace may rise up in rebellion against the CCP. This video is one of many that revealed China's impending collapse. I sincerely hope that you found this news to be helpful. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more specifics on China's financial troubles or global wealth, power, finance, business, and economy. You can check out more videos on the channel and share. It will help my videos to reach more people. See you in the next one.